All right, now I'm going to show how to set up multiple switch jack cables for larger projects where you're switch adapting multiple features, such as the custom fight stick box that I've mentioned in other video clips. And so I have my fight stick that has the several arcade buttons that I'm going to switch adapt, as well as the joystick that's attached in there as well. All right, so the end result is going to be along the lines of this type of a cable, where it has two 3.5 millimeter surface mounted switch jacks coming through this cable that has 4 wires running through it. So 2 for each of these. And in this case, this one that I finished, at the other end of the cable, the same, you got to make sure the same color pairs are used, but the wire, they're soldered into 2 of the switches for the joystick here. All right, so that's partly done there. In another view here, you can see just the cable that I've already put the switch jacks onto, and it's ready to be soldered on to more of the fight sticks controls. One of the big pluses of doing it this way is that everything stays nice and tidy inside with all of this many wires. So by keeping everything running through these cables, it keeps things much more tidy inside and less chance of something coming loose or pulling on something else. Okay, so to do this, you start with a basic piece of cable. All right, this is actually a very nice type of cable to work with. It's easy to strip away the housing without damaging the wires underneath, I've found. But there's a lot of different types of cables. A lot of times it's easy to get a hold of Cat 5 or Cat 6 cables. Those are the kind of cables that you would connect to your computer for like the internet, you know, Ethernet cable, these kind of things. And those will have even more wires running through them, so you could have more than just 2 pair, you might have 3 or 4 pair. But in this case, we've got 4 wires inside, so we'll be able to set up 2 pair. And I'm going to start by removing about 3 inches of the housing at each end, about here. And to do that, I'm going to gently roll and cut very shallowly at first, okay? Because I really don't want to damage the wires inside. All right, so you might do a few passes, and once you get cut all the way through in one small spot, right there, you can actually then just kind of split it apart with your fingers, and it'll kind of come apart on its own then without you even having to cut anymore. See that? Now it's loose, and I can use my fingers here and gently pull this away on this particular cable. It's very nice. And we can see, you want to examine closely at the base here that you didn't cut too far in and cut into the wires underneath, because that would be an opportunity to have a crossover, and you're going to have problems. Everything looks really good though. So yeah, this cable, particular type of cable, is just really easy to work with. All right, now we're going to do the same at the other end. About here. Again, don't go too deep. Find one spot that you can get all the way through. Like right there, I can see the wires underneath now. Now if I gently kind of work it like this, work my way around, it's kind of continuing to split open the rest of the way for me without using a blade. There we go. Again, you can gently kind of pull that back. Boom. Lovely. Okay, now you want to twist together 2 pair. The colors don't matter as long as you're consistent at both ends. One thing I do suggest though is with a project like this where you're going to have more than one cable is to combine, to make pairings that are unique as much as you can. Meaning, for example, in another cable that I've already done some of the work on, you'll see in this one I have yellow and black together and red and green. So I'm doing different pairing here, doing black and green. That way, when I am inspecting things inside, I can visually discriminate and things are somewhat unique. All right. There we go. Let's do the same at this end. I need to make sure that these match. So the colors don't matter what you put with what. They just have to be the same at both ends. Okay, so we got green and black here. We've got yellow and red. Twisting them together, again, keeps things orderly and nice. Okay, now the next thing you're going to want to do is to strip away just about 1 centimeter for most of these ends here, okay? If one or the other end has the housing a little more of it removed than the other, then that's the end you're going to want for connecting at the buttons because they're farther apart than your jacks will be on the housing. So, but each project's a little different. So I'm using my wire strippers here at the smallest setting because these are very small wires, about 1 centimeter. Clamp and pull, clamp and pull. Just do that for each of these. You don't want to remove too much because that's always a chance to cause a short. If that exposed metal comes in contact with the metal from the other wire, and then things will not work correctly. Okay, now it's all done on both ends. Let's see, I will do that. This end. So these wires at this end I've decided are going to be connected to my 3.5 millimeter surface mount jacks, and that means on these ones, one of each set I actually need to strip quite a bit more away because of how I'm going to have to wire it up, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment. But I'm picking one and I'm going to strip away, so there's a total of what is that, probably 2/3 of an inch maybe. Okay, and the same on this other pair, maybe a little bit more there. Okay, great. Next, what I need to do is, to make this a little easier, I'm going to get a few things set up. So here is my jack, and these little tabs that we're going to solder onto, I'm going to splay them out a little bit more so that my wires are not so close to each other on there. There, that's good. Now, the reason that I had cut more of the housing off of each of these pairs is because this wire is actually going to be soldered through both the middle and the right side points here. All right, that orientation is with this big metal piece on the top. All right, so you'll see that in a second. To make this easier though, to solder everything together, I'm gonna bend the top little bit of these wires outward so that when I'm gonna feed them through the holes on those tabs and they will stay better. Okay, so for this first one, I always start with the one that has to be soldered twice. So I'm gonna feed my wire through the center and the hole there, and then also through the one on the right. I'm going to clamp that onto my helping hands here. Now I'm going to take my preheated soldering iron, apply it to one side and bring my solder in on the other, and hold it there for a moment to get a good, there. And then I'm going to do the same on the second joint. And I'll show you these up close in a second after I finish this. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, now I'm going to do the single one on the left side. So I'm going to feed the green wire through, and I always go from the inside towards the out. That just makes a cleaner. Any little piece of wire on the end then is poking out to the outside and not into the middle where it might possibly touch other wires. Okay. Looks pretty good. The last thing I'm going to do here is this piece where it's connected to two. I'm going to grab it with my needle nose pliers, the piece of wire in the middle, and pull it out a little bit. So now it's out away from where your switch post is going to come in later on. Okay, so bring that up close. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. That jack is wired on there. All right, I'm going to do that one more time with the other one here. Bending these stripped away wires a little beforehand, it just makes it easier. Taking my jack and bending the little tabs I'm going to solder onto outward a little. Okay. Now, again, starting with the one that gets soldered twice. So, I said always from the inside out. I guess that's only halfway true on this one that gets soldered twice. You do start from the outside, in the middle, and go in. But that's then, so on the second one, you're going from the inside out. If you can see that, I just did that there. Okay. Now, I can solder those in place. As you can see, with what I'm doing right now, helping hands, that's these guys that are holding my wires for me right now. Invaluable to make sure you get things where you need them and can still manipulate your solder and your soldering iron, everything. Without that, these kind of even relatively simple tasks become much more challenging. So if you're thinking about doing a fair amount of this kind of work, that is definitely one tool you would want to invest in. Helping hands. And I have kind of a nice deluxe set here because I do a lot of this, but you can get a real simple set of helping hands that work just fine from like Amazon for even as cheap as about $8. Okay, again, I'm gonna grab the piece of wire, that's connected twice and pull it outward a little. And again, you can see what that looks like when it's all soldered in place. Now I have my two 3.5 millimeter surface mounting switch jacks ready to go. And later on, as I'm assembling everything, that means they are going to get mounted from the inside out on the box here. And so then the jack will be poking out here where you can plug the client's ability switch into. Now the other end of our cable, all you really need to do for prep is to just pre-tin these ends. All right, adding a little bit of solder on there. And that's just makes it easier to solder these on to our points later on when we're soldering onto the existing switches. Solder sticks to solder much better. So we have a little on there, it's just gonna facilitate that later. And so that's the last step, is, which I'm not going to do it right this second, but I would take the wires here from the existing switches. Maybe I will do one right now so you can see. And oops, I'm going to place one here. Let's see, I'm gonna do it there with my alligator clips. Okay, and then I will how I'm gonna do this to make it most easy is I'm gonna apply a little solder onto my spot here before I bring any wire in. There, see that? Now I bring my wire in here, right, and come at the other side with my heat, and I'm gonna, to do this really nicely, I want it to kind of parallel to the existing wires, right? So I can do this, bring my heat in to turn that solder I just put on liquid again, get my wire in there, and after a few seconds that guy is connected. See that? Now I'm adding in my jack for my client's ability switch to the same switch loop. All right, well, guess we'll go ahead and do the last one here. Boom. And again, I'm gonna put some solder on here beforehand. Bring my heat in to heat up that metal a little. Some solder right on. Okay. Now I can bring the second wire in. There. Simple as that. Okay, so now if I reconnect these onto the existing arcade button, oops, my new cable, oops, I didn't quite get that one on there. There we go. My new cable is also connected, which I will mount onto the case, and I can plug a switch in, and my client's ability switch, when activated, will do the same thing as hitting this arcade button, the purple one here. So that will do the same thing. And that's how we're connecting up our switch adapted fight stick box. Thank you.